distraction. Religion is a distraction, and anything that takes our focus away from our Creator is a distraction, or can be a distraction. We talked about irritations in our lives being opportunities to transform darkness into light. And how we respond to them is what creates our destiny. How we respond to those irritants. Yes.
This week, and I think I mentioned it to Pastor, I felt very, very pressed. And I thought about the olive, how the olive is pressed, and I was just wondering why I was feeling that way.
Well, if you look at the outcome of that pressing, then being pressed is a good thing.
I understand that. Yeah.
So the issue is, what is it that caused that pressing?
Yes, that's my question.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, wait, it's all.
Well, whatever the issue is, I mean,
So,
you know,
well, the question then is, how did you
the
respond to the
response,
pressing?
that's the issue.
Thank you.
Did you get down in the dumps and just say, oh, what the heck is going on? I mean, what was
It was just heavy. And I said, Pastor, I feel like I'm being pressed. And he told me some things. And you know how you hear him and then it has to resonate later? Sometimes, you know, it does. It is. Yeah, it was so much that he told me. I mean, he said it real simple, but it was a lot. And another question. Did anyone else feel that way this week? Or I just felt pressed?
I think that we are going to have to get to a place where we recognize these things, but we don't respond to them in an emotional way.
or react to them?
React to them in an emotional way. I believe that one of the reasons we do react the way we do is because we either love the flesh or we fear the flesh, meaning both body and nature. If you fear it, it will overwhelm you and manipulate you. If you love it, it will swallow you and paralyze you, because you don't want to lose it. So you're afraid instead of deal with the issues in front of you. So you can't lean it. Lean is a bad choice of words. You cannot embrace one and leave the other. It has to be a balance there. And when we're not balanced, that's when we experience those things.
Depressing?
Anything, pressing, sadness, happiness, whatever. It's one side or the other. We only want the happy side.
Well, yeah.
We don't want to experience the other. But when we're balanced, neither one of them matters, because we understand and accept the fact that this is a reality that I may not understand the outcome or the reason for it, but it is necessary for me to face it, regardless of what it is.
Well, with me, it was no sadness, there was no tears, there was no happiness. I just, felt that way, and then I kept moving.
Okay, well, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what it is, don't put a label on it.
Right. So, but I was just wondering why I felt that way.
Because you're supposed to.
Another thing I see as you talked is, what is it that's in the olive that's good? What's it good for? If it's not pressed, it's not whatever the oil is not freed, it's not expelled, and so the pressing is necessary in order for that to flow, in a sense. Same with the grape and wine, the pressing and blah blah blah. If it's not pressed, the what you want to get out of it doesn't occur. It just sits and rots. Or I got you, Pastor.
But
Okay, so you go ahead.
But even when it being pressed, it still has to be filtered. And the more you filter it, the purer it becomes. You know, extra virgin olive oil.
So-
It talks about filtration.
So one step then.
Don't touch it.
I was going to confuse it a little further about cold press, first press is the best quality.
But the first step has to be to get it out, and then there are steps that occur afterwards. Is your point.
That's it.
Just like us, it's not enough to say. It reminds me of what you said last week about there's nothing static. Everything is movement. You know, the awareness opens us up, but we start building the boundaries around it of our perceptions. It begins to construct it and make it more solid again. But if we don't do that, it allows itself to flow, and it allows us to receive of that flow. If we don't build the barrier around ourselves with our perceptions, but if we do, that flow can't get into us. So it just reminded me of that as well.
No, and I think, that, you know, there's an old saying, and I don't know where, Buddhist something, what you can objectively observe, you can control. So when you have the sensation, if you then have a moment or an affinity to sort of say, what is this? You're already pretty well far along to putting it here in front of you, so to speak, and not just having it inside. So you're close to being able to say, okay, what is this, or what do I want to do with this? Which is then what?
But the truth is, do you really control it if you observe it?
You can manage it. It depends on how you want to define the word control. You manage and control how it affects you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It could be something that's going to overwhelm you anyway. I mean,
So
if you're in a fire blaze and it's coming all over you, like the guys up there in the woods, well, maybe not. But I mean,
So I needed that qualifier to really understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or what the saying was saying. It's how you choose to allow it to.
you know, I think in a lot of counseling or just everyday stuff, if you can sort of, or frustrations and stress and anxiety. I know, well, Audrey can come home and be, the day was that. So somehow if you can take that, put it, just to make a metaphor, make something, put it on the table in front of you and look at it that way, put some distance, you can manage it better, and it's not in and through you, and you don't, you know what I mean, it hasn't taken you over so much.
It may not be for you to manage at all. Maybe for someone else to help you manage. Because I'm my brother's keeper, of course you are. You see? So it's like you don't, if you don't understand it, leave it alone, just let it be what it is. If you are able to manage it, then do so. But if not, then you probably need to talk to someone to help you manage it. We are not in this thing alone. And if in the moment that we think we are, that's when we lose everything. So.
I think even if you express the phrase, it's happening to me, or, you know, you've already established a separation between it and you.
Yeah.
So there's still a you in there. So now you have to decide what you want to do with it, or can do with it, where you need to go to get help if it's recurring or oppressing, too much too fast, like you're lifting too much weight too fast. You need a spotter, so to speak. Write it off, you know, before I go with this thing.
So then you call somebody
Yeah,
who
you
will
call
tell you
someone.
something that don't resonate to later.
That's okay.
Okay.
I think that one of the things that summed it up, Pastor, last week was the fact that you said that we're in the midst of a transformation that begins with the death of our perceptions and our beliefs and our perceptions. And those perceptions are those things that have been purported to be light or truth, which really weren't. And we congealed it and made it our truth. before I get into the one scripture I was going to do today, or maybe two. After we left, we talked a little bit about tolerance last week too. And after we did that, I went to I saw my sister-in-law and my brother in Hobby Lobby, and they were talking and sharing about their son and how open he is, and he's in this creative state now and making his music, things like that. And they were concerned about the kinds of words he used in music. And he said things like, well, you know, they're just letters. You put them together in different ways. But the point was the word tolerance came up as we talked about that, as well as something else. And how she said, I believe I'm a tolerant person. I'm a tolerant person. And it didn't relate to some, but it related to another issue we're going to. And I said, wow, it's just interesting how that just came up. And so if you tolerate something, if you tolerate someone, and we said, what about homosexual? If you tolerate that, that just means then that you're denying, everybody has divinity in them, and you're denying or minimizing the divinity in that person. And at the same time, you are, in essence, minimizing it in yourself too. And she didn't see it that way, so she said, oh, well, maybe I don't want to use the word tolerate, and you know, so it was just uncanny. Well, maybe it wasn't so uncanny, how that occurred. So what we say is resonating beyond these walls, which means then that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
Anyway. Okay, any other comments about last week? Besides,
Well, I don't know about last week, but the week before, when we talked about reacting and responding and all that, I guess y'all talked more about that last week. But I felt it was speaking to me, so when I went back to school the next week, and I picked up that book you gave me a long time ago called The Wings of the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
I was flipping through that again, and it was talking about all of our illnesses, depressions, whatever. It's because we don't have any joy. We throw it aside and let all that other stuff take its place. So I was going, wow, boy, that's talking to me. So between what we had talked about here and that, when I went to school, I just went, okay, it's just whatever. And I had the best week. I mean, it was hectic. I had a lot of stuff to do, but I just had the best week because I didn't really hold on to any of it.
Right.
I just let it be, in terms of just leaving it alone.
Okay.
And I was kind of stressed because Frank was coming to observe me. I'm like, okay, whatever. He don't know about it, sir. He don't know what.
you might think this is part of the program.
Oh, we had the best day.
That's good,
Yeah.
Audrey.
And we got to talk really seriously about what he felt like he wanted to do and what he thought of Montessori and all that. But it's just interesting how the kids were. He was concerned about how the kids would be working in the classroom. But the kids just really came through. They were working, and he was just really impressed. And it's because I didn't hold on to it or try to make it be anything.
You became covering in a positive manner.
Good.
And she didn't constrict. She just allowed the energy to flow, and the kids picked up on that.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the Shekinah do?
What covers,
Covers.
nurtures. Yeah. See, I think we miss it. whatever you feel is what you give life to. And if you're giving life to death, it sounds like oxymoron, but just what you're doing. You're giving life to death. Well, it's not really living, because death cannot produce anything, neither can it inherit anything, so you end up getting confusion in the class. But when you bring order to you,
Yeah.
then you have order in whatever you cover.
Because one of the things we said is we can't let our attitudes and our beliefs and our issues become distractions for us, because they do take us off focus, off track.
Big time.
And it becomes a little bit about me and how someone is affecting me, rather than just letting it flow, and it doesn't become about me or about you anymore. It just is.
So are we covering when we go every day as well?
See,
Are you?
That's a rhetorical question. I know. Okay.
we got all kind of backdoor ways.
Sheldon giggling.
We got backdoor ways of being selfish, of saying it's about me. All these backdoor ways. Why is this happening to me? Or someone is saying something about me. Or, you know, I am really tired of this, whatever this is. Those are backdoor ways of saying it's about you, or about me. As opposed to just recognizing what it is and keep it moving. What we do, we recognize things for what they are when it's convenient, or when we feel like it's acceptable, as opposed to those things that we really don't want to be bothered with. Then we find other ways of saying it is really about me and how I feel.
Yeah, that was my
It's
next
just-
question.
Just a backdoor way of doing it. And we have to face those things, you know.
Well, I think that the tension can come, and the challenge is, particularly if you're in an environment where you expect or it's expected of you to accomplish specific or certain specific things. I mean, the thing about teaching, to me, is it should be much more wide open, but my sense of the way it's done, it's really very, you gotta get from here to here. Or there's that sense that that's what you should be doing. So talk about pressing, there's all that. So how do you have to manage that openness in the middle of all that, require progress, whatever you want to call it, all those kind of words. Same on development. We got to get from point A to point B, and you're measured by that. You're good or you're bad at it because you did or you didn't accomplish that, which is somebody else's criteria. But you can't always pretend it doesn't count. So on the one hand, you know, you can try and relax and let the class be, and you can have people who are evaluating you for purposes of whatever, your job. That's a good example. They're looking at it some other, and sometimes it can get a little crazy. That's a square peg round hole proposition.
That's the crazy
and
part of it.
that's the way a lot of situations can be.
That's where life
But
Yeah.
but
Well,
see, your objective is to change it.
It's in life, it's not life.
You change it. And you change the way you did it.
It's the way life is not my definition of real life. That's the way life in this earth realm is. You have those pressures and the issues to transform and be beyond this so-called life, corpse life, in a sense.
We
Well,
have
I would say there are work environments where that is minimized, and there are work environments where that becomes really pressing. And you feel oppressed, and you can feel like, you know, anytime you feel like you got an elephant sitting on you, it's kind of hard to feel loose and you can move, and if you're responsible for other people building on that, it affects, there's a synergy in that, so, yeah.
And I think the reason you experience it is so you learn not to experience it. How you get beyond it. What Audrey was describing was the pressures that she experienced, but then when she made a choice that, you know what, it's whatever. then those pressures are gone. What I'm saying, the point is this: it does not matter what, quote unquote, this life, the material world offers. We are supposed to be able to manage it to the extent where we breathe new life or light into it, so it doesn't indeed be transformed. We are the transformers. But rather than us being transformers, we allow things to be encountered to transform us. And it is difficult to make that transition, perception, it's difficult to change your perception about that because of the way we have been taught. That we are supposed to, these pressures that come with the job. It's like the guy who's a soldier, you know, like, you may get killed. Well, that's the job description. We accept those things as opposed to saying, you know what, I am the difference in this equation. I'm the one who makes the difference. I'm the one who lets the air out of the balloon, release the pressure. That's who I am. So, and if we don't, guess what? We continuously encounter those things that creates pressure, stress, etc.
And distract us.
You can live a stress-free life. It's your choice.
We have to get out of this circle.
It's,
It seems
it's
like
your
it's
choice.
like, we keep going, spin on the wheel and just keep going up, around and around and around.
And think about that, when truth opens, that's almost like opening and allowing flowing. It's like the olive when the oil is pressed out, it's opening and allowing the flowing. Truth is like that too.
And think about what stress tightens you. It constricts, yeah.
Constricts your vessel.
So you're not open to anything. But if you seriously develop a true sense of proclivity for the light or for truth, then it opens you up to everything that will guide you along that pathway. And the things that guides us is not necessarily all peaches and cream. It's roses, of course. Roses do have thorns, but it does not change the fact that it's a rose. So the question is, do you pull the rose up by the root because you get stuck by one of the thorns, or do you get through it and continue to nurture the roses? That's how our lives are. We make those kinds of choices every single day. I choose not to live a stressful life. Does stress come my way? Do I have opportunity? Of course, yes. And sometimes it takes me longer than other times to get, to deal with it. But whatever you stress about is something you can't change anyway. So why stress about it? You can't change it because if you could, you would. So, I just step back from it.
The issue is you can't change it, but you can change you.
Yes.
And you can change your responses too.
Sometimes if you have an experience of it before, it's easier for you to see it. But theoretically, this is why you would take a mental health day in the middle of the week, so to speak. This is why you might get out of town when you can.
Favorite kind.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't have that experience, you sometimes don't realize that's an option. And do it. And trust me, a mental health day in the middle of the week is worth 10 of them on the weekend. I mean, because you're playing hooky kind of thing, but it's just what you do with it.
Well, nobody's looking for you, right? And you're not actually sick, so you can enjoy being home.
but see,
Perfect.
the other,
There it is.
we.
But if you don't let yourself know that you have that option to regenerate, to get a perspective, we seem to be living in a period, in a particular society, if you read what I read, that's chosen to go this way. You never have enough, you're never sure enough, you're never secure enough, you're never all this, as opposed to other people, other places who are like, this is enough for me to then have a more balanced or whatever kind of life. It's harder if you're one person in a crowd, but it can still be. And you can change the crowd, maybe, depending on the size. And let's not be superhuman here, but so you have to find your own little way to have that moment, have that place or something, and then
See,
I'm a big one for
mental health days only work when you don't consider what you're gonna have to do when you go back. I've heard so many people say, I would take a mental health day, but I'm gonna be so far behind. But that's a distraction in itself to keep you from taking that day.
Well, it's the same.
And when you take it and sit back and enumerate all the things you're gonna have to do when you go, you may be able to, you know, and then the reason weekends usually seem like they fly by is because we do things the same order every weekend. If you
Right.
change the order of things that you do, it extends your weekend, at least it seems to anyway.
But this what get me, what I'm gonna tell my boss when I call him and let him know I'm not,
Um,
you know, the night before. I'm like, so what lie am I gonna tell him?
you don't have to tell them.
But, you know, it's a way to say anything.
You said
So I'm just saying, that's what kind of gets me.
emotionally.
Provide that information. I just say I'm not feeling well and I won't be in today.
Yeah.
And you know, I think my supervisor, he understands. It's me, not him.
Because we've been
Because he
training.
can't make me come in. You know what I'm saying? Ellie, you taking
I'm
a...
not gonna come to your
Yeah,
house. and
exactly.
let me
Well, he can't stop you from coming.
If he's a good
You
boss,
saying the same something.
in. You make such
actually,
an
if he's a
excellent
good
point,
boss, he
though.
might.
Because Des and I go through the same thing, and she works with these families, and there are days she doesn't feel well, and she'll call me,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to talk it through together because she needs to stay home, but she feels guilty. Same way I do sometimes. I've gotten better, admittedly. I have a different boss now. I think that helps some, but
Yeah,
yeah, you feel bad, like
the loyalty and stuff. With me,
yeah.
I'm
What
committed.
It is.
It's
It's
work.
just
You call it work ethic.
Yeah,
You know what?
okay.
it.
Well, I mean, there's
That's
a
what we
period.
call it.
They don't feel that way about us, though.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean, there's an interesting phenomenon that I think is happening. I know in the government it's this way, and I think more and more in the private sector. You accumulate so much leave time,
Yeah,
and
that's
at a
me.
certain point, you either have to use it or you lose it.
Yeah.
So that's intended on the surface to tell you, take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think there might be a subliminal message there about you're not supposed to use it somehow.
Yeah.
Because I know there are too many instances where people don't, and they're giving it to each other right and left. And that's something else you can do, whether it's sick leave or whatever, to help people who've had catastrophic things happen. But, I mean, what does that say when, you know, we have to have policies to say use it or lose it? And then there's that other joke that everybody has that, you know, if you spend more than 1 week or 10 days away from the job, then people may start asking themselves, why do we hire this person, or who were they? You know, those sort of jokes we have.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Europe hasn't fallen apart, and in the month of August, don't go there expecting to get anything done unless you're going to be on the beach. Because there's nobody doing anything but striking, or they're on the beach. And it hadn't fallen apart yet.
I think that what we are actually talking about right now is the major thing that distracts us from who we really are.
Work.
Work. Our work, this material world, regardless of whether it's work or play, is a distraction from who we really are. We spend more time talking about work, how it affects us, trying to get out of it, than we do about who we really are.
Mm.
And if we understand that work is simply a method to provide for the sustaining of this body, and see it as that as opposed to our identity, then it makes a difference. And if we can separate that and stand back from it and see that work does not sustain us. Our sustenance doesn't come from a job, neither does it come from food. The us. But when we get to the place where we say that this job sustains me or this money sustains me, of this earth, the food, it sustains me, then we are loving that flesh, or loving the nature to an extent that it paralyzes us. It keeps us from moving beyond where we are in terms of seeing the spiritual value in moving beyond that, the concept of work. There's huge spiritual value in that. So,
I think you said something about play.
oh, of course.
It's how we
That's how you perceive
define
it.
it, perceive it, because, you know, the jokes of, you have to go back to work to relax from the holiday you just had, right? Because you got your boat on the top of your camper, and you're pulling a motorcycle, you know, and you know, all that kind of stuff, instead of just, what do you call relaxation? So,
How I want to ask you something. How many days have you gone without saying something about your work that you don't like? How many times have you sat at a table for dinner, whether it be home or in a restaurant, and all you hear is somebody's job? That is depressing. As opposed to just general conversation about stuff that's more relaxing, that's more real. How many times? You know?
It happens.
I mean,
Yeah.
because what? Listen to this room.
Mhm.
That's all we're talking about. A job. You know? And most of the examples that we give, not just today, but in the past, have been about jobs.
Well, we're there for so long.
And
All day.
that's absolutely that. But see, this is the thing.
If you weren't careful,
It-
nothing else happening.
You're right.
It's a serious distraction. It's a serious distraction.
Okay, yes.
And I'm saying, and it is no different than what we've been taught all our lives. That, you know, the stuff that we've been taught all our lives. If we could step back from, quote unquote, the religious stuff that we were taught and began to move beyond it, we can do the same thing with the job, unless the job is more important to us than we are, than who we are. Because quite frankly, job represents money.
Mhm.
And if job is the focus of your attention, then so is money. In a surreptitious way. Think about it. And I know what the thing is. You got to have a job to live. No, you don't. The job needs you to exist.
Well, it can't be ran properly without me.
How long do you have a job? You
How
live.
long what?
When you have a job, then you live.
I had a good time.
I've asked the wrong person.
I did.
But my
Things were
point,
paid on time. I had a ball.
my point is that we need to recover from that. We need to, you know, yeah, that's the job. Leave it right there.
Mhm.
But how do I deal with me in terms of the spiritual, so that this thing does not consume me?
Well, nice segue into 1 Thessalonians 5:18. In everything give thanks. For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning
Concerning you.
Yeah.
I know that one.
you. You know about and expand it from beyond the focus of this job and what it's doing to me to the Creator, and the fact that it's a way to provide some things that I have need of. Sometimes it provides things you want, but still, it says in everything give thanks. It doesn't have to be just work. It could be that person with that bad attitude that you know about on the in your neighborhood. But it says give thanks. So my question is, what does all that mean to us? In everything, give thanks, for this is the desire. Let me see what God translates as. Of
Where are you again?
Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians 5:18. If you look at what Christ Jesus means up here, this is the desire of God in the one who provides all that is needed and delivers us from everything. If we substitute the words of the very meaning of what Christ Jesus means in everything, what is this teaching me? We always get back to that.
Mhm.
What should my response be in this setting, in this situation, in this issue? It always gets back to that. So, when your boss fusses at you sometime, give thanks. What does that mean?
Well, they got a business fussing at
When
you.
you feel pressed, when you feel pressed, thank you for this pressure now. I'm waiting for you to review what it means
Yeah.
to me. How should I respond? Other thoughts about that? Because, this is such a verse that we just glibly look at, but we don't work it in a sense. If you work it, you see what the word I use,
Yeah.
we don't work it.
Exactly. The TV boy is mighty quiet.
Our TV audience, fellow fellowshipping with us.
I can say something on that. I think whenever you feel pressed, or whenever you are dealing with something that is something that makes you feel like it is extracting out of you a part of you that you didn't know that you necessarily had in order to overcome it. Be in a thankful mind state, because when you put yourself in a thankful mind state, you are connecting to the very thing that is beneath and within and beyond all of this more superficial pressure that we feel. And so when you put that and connect to that in the situation that you're going through, that becomes the energy that directs you through the situation, and that becomes your response to that situation to transform it and yourself even as you're going through it. So the other part of that is there is a part of you that knows that everything you experience as trials and tribulations are ultimately for your benefit, but you can't, they won't be used as that unless you use them as that. Mm-hmm. And by putting yourself in the mind state and changing your attitude towards them, then you can, I was going to say, transmute yourself into what those things secretly are trying to help you become.
It's like having tools for a job, and the tools may not be tools you agree to will help you get the job done, but if you open yourself to it, the tools can help sharpen you, can help give you what you need to get through that job. So irritants and distractions can be that tool if we use them that way. But we have to put them in the right perspective. We have to understand
yes, a comment. So while you were looking up God, I was looking up in everything give thanks, and I was looking further into thanks, and just some of the definitions that they were using gave a deeper meaning to it as well. So of course, one of the main ones is to be grateful. But as you go further and further into the word of being thankful, what they're actually explaining is actually saying to be mindful of favors and to be, when we were talking about earlier, acceptable to others. And then as it goes further, it is to do something pleasant and agreeable. So as it keeps on changing and changing from you being thankful, it's almost like the situation that you're going through is not even always or completely about you, because you are providing grace for that situation or grace for another person as well. So it is actually forcing you to, I guess, for lack of better words, it forces you to be in this state of your higher self. Because as you go further and further in the word, it completely changes. It has nothing to do with the individual. So it's like a transformation.
It also means to forgive. It means to pardon. So your point is well taken. If we get down to the root of what Thanksgiving is all about, that's where I was coming from. What's
to give graciously and bestow.
Yes, sir.
It also, I was looking at it from the Old Testament. The first place it was mentioned was in Leviticus. And it also talks about worshiping. It talks about a choir of worshipers in terms of submission.
You're talking about thanks still?
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So thanks actually, I suppose that is much more involved than it appears to be. So because if you giving thanks for something to someone, then what are you actually doing?
We are worshiping our Creator.
Or you, in addition, you're also submitting to loving kindness.
And one thing is like the other when you do what that thing is. And the thanks is the ultimate of what the Creator does for us. Forgives. And so when we emulate that, that puts us in the flow of the light flow. It flows rather than being constricted or bottled up. When we don't give thanks, we try to bottle things up. It doesn't help us, and it clearly doesn't help anybody else.
But it seems like, and I noticed this past week, that the only day, and I put this in quotations, of course, Thanksgiving, that's supposed to be submitting to the Creator thanks for what we are, it's the only day that's being omitted. You know, Halloween is decoration, a big thing. Christmas is a big thing. New Year's is a big thing, but Thanksgiving is dying. And that's supposed to be the one day that the Creator's recognized. I mean, it's all about shopping.
Yeah, I think it's being overtaken.
Yeah.
And now, who knows, now we'll learn. Well, I mean, I was amazed to learn, I think it was right.
Who's next?
Okay, sorry. I'm sitting behind you.
Are you next?
You did?
Go ahead.
Somebody.
When you said quiet worship and submission, it just really struck something in me. Because the way I see this is that we talk about resistance, and now we're talking about submission. But it's all of it is dying to self. Because if we can get if we can give thanks and submit, we're dying to self.
Because we don't want to do that.
If we can resist, just reacting to something, we're dying to self. So it's all about dying to self.
So when you minimize the ego, where does that leave you?
Yeah, an opportunity of a place of light. Yeah.
And if you die to self, and you're absolutely correct in saying that, and you go back and make an attempt to pick it up, then it's a fruitless effort. Because what you're actually saying is that which is dead is inheriting the light that you receive when you die to self. And something that's dead cannot inherit anything, but you're making a futile attempt to infuse it with the light that you saw as a result of it dying. You know how you go back to something and it doesn't feel comfortable? Mm-hmm. It's like the dog returning to his vomit type thing. That's what that actually is. And that's why it doesn't feel comfortable. Because it's dead to you, but you're trying to breathe life into it. You're trying to resuscitate it. And it's not going to happen. So you become miserable. It's like a dead relationship.
So as we go throughout whatever it is we do for the next period we call 7 days, remember to give thanks in everything. I dare you. Everything.
Underline everything.
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 Doesn't matter what it is. Thank you. And move on. Don't try to do anything with it. Don't try to box it in. Don't put any boundaries around it. Listen. They just cut me off. Thank you. And move on. You got to start somewhere in terms of being. That reminds you of who you are. Because when you can thank somebody, whatever the reason, who's in the superior position in a sense? You are, because you aren't taking that on and letting it get into you and starting to focus on it. What the heck that lady meant. And I had that Barbie doll first, and she just pulled it right out of my hand. No matter that you went shopping Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter, But you have the opportunity to forgive when you thank. When you give thanks for anything, for the good and for a wrong done to you. That's forgiving. And that's not holding on.
And that if you view it, whether it be somebody cutting you off or saying something demeaning about you or to you, that's an opportunity to transform darkness into light by virtue of the way you respond to it. That's what it actually does. Love covers a multitude of sin? Entanglements.
The other thing that thanks means is being acceptable to others. And so it's not many people who can thank somebody for demeaning them. I mean, it just takes the wind out of other people when they see you acting or responding so different than what they would expect you to respond to.
I experienced it.
Well, that's why.
And didn't know what I was doing.
Love your enemies.
I mean,
It drives them nuts.
this lady cussed me out in front of a lot of folks. I just stood there. And when she finished, I said, "Are you finished?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'm perfectly fine." She was furious. But I didn't know at that time what I was doing. So.
Rich?
Well,
No.
one thing Sheldon resonated around at the center of all this. It's not always about you. So this isn't about you letting go. You. It's just that you're you there. And I'm reminded
Y'all doing something? What's going on?
Is this a family thing?
I know you know.
I think it's these people up in New York and Washington. Anyway, I'm reminded of something that even Albert Einstein said as he got older. He saw the distinctions between things blurred. And so as he got older, he had comfort and he had no fear of, we could say, his transition. Because he understood it was a melding. It wasn't a something starting, something ending. And that kind of relates to that too. So the higher you go, Sheldon says, not the higher you go, but the higher, whatever you want to call the self is, the less distinction that it's you versus. There's a you, the you's expanding until the you's ultimately everything.
Right.
So I think that's a quality, that's something to hold. It's not always about you and at a higher level, it is about you at the same time, just because these things are always paradoxical, right? But it's not that limited, small, boxed-in self. It's a larger, merged self.
At a certain level of awareness, it's always about the other person, in a sense. Because when you can make it about the other person, I got you automatically, you open the channels for you continuing to receive what's necessary for you. You don't think about you first. Because another underlying meaning of thanks is to preserve for one a person in peril. And which means that when you take that person off center, and you don't do exact what they expect you to do, somewhere down the road, that person, if it's not you, someone else is going to cross their path, which brings up the response that you gave them. So it's an opportunity. Giving thanks for whatever is an opportunity at some point to preserve that person. And you may not see it, but you don't have to see it if you just understand that that's a deeper meaning of what it means to give thanks and accept it. Okay, that's fine.
Consideration. Because people are so into themselves and so concerned with what's best for them.
Mm-hmm.
They have absolutely no compassion or consideration for anybody around them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Okay.
really disturbing.
But it doesn't have to be. You be the compassion. You change your world.
No, I'm not suggesting I don't. I'm just saying, just seeing it around
Just
me.
in
Okay,
general.
but you use the word disturbing.
It is disturbing.
But why is that disturbing when that's,
When you create,
expected? That's
No.
this world. That's this world system. They're doing what it is they know to. They're doing it because, we were there.
I challenge people on stuff like that.
And that's good. It depends on how you do it and the motive behind it too.
yeah, it depends how you feel on a given day.
I don't cuss nobody out.
Not directly.
I think
Like Kevin said, there are letters.
Single out.
Yeah, skin a cat, right?
A lot of ways to cuss people out.
Audrey Richards saying when she's talking about the you, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when we just broadcasted about the walls, of separation, and we have created you know, be it economic, clubs, sororities, denominations. We create those you, and even there's a subset of individuality within the denomination, whether it be choir, usher, board, junior missionary, and then a further subset in that in terms of officers. You know, so in every aspect of this material life, there are walls that are acceptable simply because we don't see them as walls. So it is always the greater you, as opposed, or the I, the big I and the little I am. Because that's what it is anyway. It does I am, it says I.
So we're being led to believe that we're a grain of sand, and we're really the beach.
Both.
Well, yeah, I mean, it used to be. I don't even hear anybody use terms that I grew up with. Cross subsidization. I mean, what is insurance?
I don't even know what that means.
Pooling risk.
I don't
See?
know.
Yeah.
Who was using that word?
He's a child.
It's sharing collectively the burden.
Oh, I
It's-
understand
it's-
that. Yeah.
We did it. We just called it that.
You know, it was always the dial between individual and community, but it's a continuum, there's a connection. And that's why I say we've just been led to believe to focus on the fact that you just want to be the biggest, most prominent grain of sand you can be.
Well, you know, and I'm next time that
I'm writing a children's book. I'm writing a
cross
children's book.
subsidies. But you know, but Richard,
That
what
big
you just
word
gave
you
is a perfect example of how we create segments and use of the word cross. What did you say? Subsidization or something like that.
Well, that was it.
Cross. No. But I'm making a point here. So my point is, when someone that word, use that word to explain what you just clearly said was a sharing of why not? Why did they use that word, which separates people from really understanding what they mean, rather than what you just said is the basic explanation.
Well, sharing is a socialist communist term, but you know.
But at least it gets you, at least you begin that conversation rather than what is cross. In other words, it's a perfect example of how we box things, and a certain group knows what this means, even though you can go to the community where everybody shares and they understand and practice what that means.
I mean, look at this. There's all this thing about affordable care. Nobody's telling you what the concept of insurance is all about. And yet, if you don't understand that, nothing works.
Well, you don't have to
Because
understand
if
to do
you
it.
don't want insurance until you get sick, and everybody thinks like that, it ain't gonna work.
But and that's what I'm saying. You don't have to understand to do it. I mean, the principle. You don't have to understand the principle. If you see the results, or if you see benefits in it, you just do it.
Anyway,
Because I mean, 99% of the people they don't even bother to even think about what it's all about. Just do it. Because car insurance, you have accident, you find out what it's about. So.
Well, what we're talking about is some spiritual insurance here,
there you
in a
go.
sense.
cross-subsidization. Your higher self cross-subsidized.
How spiritual insurance? You about to tell us what that is? What we're learning here are principles underlying the words, and one of the words is thanks.
Okay.
And when we give thanks, meaning all of the things we talked about, we open ourselves up to others. We become the savior, in a sense, for others, in that we plant a seed, if not, arrest their attention at the time. So there's so many things that happen when we understand the true meaning of what giving thanks means for all of our experiences.
Because I was going to say,
And
the
so-
insurance I know is not what you're talking about. The insurance that we're aware of is just in case something happens. So that's why I asked the question.
But it's not.
And the insurance from the physical perspective is really that just in case insurance.
But see, that's the problem. It isn't just in case. It is. Somebody's getting sick. Somebody's having a car accident. Somebody's something.
Mhm.
It's happening, or you don't need insurance at all.
Their perception
But it's
is
in case it happens
just
to
in
me.
case.
But that's what you've been led, you've been,
Yeah.
Exactly.
you've allowed yourself to believe that. I mean, take this wherever you want to take it. I'd rather be white trash than, what word do you want to use?
You don't want to be poor white trash.
I need a drink of tea. I need a
No,
cup
I'd
of tea.
rather be rich white trash. Very rich white trash.
Audrey, what you gonna do with it?
Let it be done.
Just let it be.
Too far gone. He's too far gone.
Let him be.
It's going to get worse, I'm telling you.
The
It's going to get worse.
Oh, somebody
Come
had
here, my pajamas.
a, one of you guys have a comment?
Yeah, I got a quote for you
All
by
right.
John Steinbeck. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but he says, socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as an exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Yeah.
What's the last word?
Temporary embarrassed millionaires,
That's right, and that's why you're made to feel guilty.
because you don't have.
And you go to church, and that's why you don't have all the bling like the guy does up there behind the pulpit. Because he's got it all right, and you must be doing something wrong.
I feel
Exactly.
a lot wrong.
That's it. So we brought that same into all those other parts of
And
the
again,
life.
every single subset of the, what we call the human race is about someone gaining something. Or feeling that I just haven't arrived yet, but I'm on my way. Every group is about that. Be it Masons, people with degrees, or people who live in a trailer park or a housing project. Is that I just haven't gotten there yet, but I'm on my way. Not really understanding, no, you where you gonna be.
That's the dream. That's
You
the
know.
American dream.
So in essence, I mean, it's like Thanksgiving. All these people arguing about working for Thanksgiving, right? And then, you know, it's like all these people going out shopping, but the very people who tell you to work are not working. They're at home. Yeah, so if everyone understood that you actually are the working people, and you decide, well, I'm not going to work tomorrow, what they going to do? They're not going to terminate all of it. Look at Walmart. When they start walking on Walmart, they start doing PR commercials. You
That's
know,
true.
yeah, you don't know the real Walmart.
Yeah, they're like,
Hell, I don't. Yes, I do. Yeah, but it's also selling another lie. But that's what PR is. So how do you deal with that? You deal with it, as I said, by challenging it, but not just challenging it when it comes to you from someone, but challenging it with you. You know, in your own set of beliefs, by having a desire to disconnect from anything that separates. So, it's when you study what Jesus did and said, you studied socialism. Because he was the biggest socialist around. he was not at all. He didn't know Adam Smith.
Although, if anybody bothered to read all of Adam Smith, and it's this thick.
Yeah.
So like the
I
Quran,
sure didn't read it all.
so like the Quran, nobody's going to read it.
Yeah.
Adam Smith put some serious qualifications on capitalism vis-a-vis self-interest, and how it could be collectively destructive at some point, and that was a function of government, et cetera, et cetera. We're not into that kind of conversation, but that's the conversation that should be out there and isn't.
Maybe I should say King.
Keynes. Yeah, well, that's why Keynes won't go away,
Yeah.
because people keep coming back to him even though they have to call him something else.
Yeah.
but you know what the reason why they think that Jesus wasn't the way he was? It's because they still keep him in the manger. He's still baby Jesus.
No. because they make him be what they want him to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like God intended for everybody to be rich. Look at me. But I'm the one that 20,000 people are giving to. How can I avoid being that? So it's not that at all. It ain't that your money says. I need Big Jesus to take the wheel because baby Jesus can't have it.
Well, then Jesus was special, and you can't be Jesus, so he has to break all the rules. But,
So understanding what thanks is one tool that opens us up to who we really are. My little immovable walls called grandchildren all were here this weekend, and there's one who is not yet 2. He's about not yet 2, but he goes up the steps, and his mom was very concerned about falling the steps. I've got a spiral staircase on one end, and then I've got straight steps on the other. And they were very concerned about him and his falling, because he's never had that many steps. He only had 1 step at home, and it is birthday's in April. So what's that mean?
He'll be 2.
He'll be 2 in April. So he's really not. He's not. But the little fellow, I said, well, you know what? If you're concerned about how he uses the stairs, because you're not going to have your eyes on there, well, teach him how to go up and down.
Yeah.
Just teach him how to go up and down. Now, there are going to be times when his judgment strays and he might tumble because he was looking at something. But if you teach him how to go up and down, most times he'll go up and down.
He won't tumble but one time.
Well, he tumbled the first day. And so that's when I said, teach him how to go up and down. And so the little fella, he takes 1 step at it. He does not hold on the walls like most babies want. They want to hold your finger or hold on to the wall. This little turkey, this little baby. 1 step, no wall, all the walls over there on both sides. Another step, another, and goes all the way up. Same way, coming down without holding. But it reminded me about how our Father is. All of this that we're learning are things that teach us how to ascend in terms of awareness, how to go up and down, how to ascend, but also how to relate to where we are, in a sense. Because we can't stay up here all the time, because we're living in this earth realm, and the issue is to have impact, influence on others. So, if there are concerns out there, being thankful is one of the tools that we learn to teach us how to go up and down. Now, think on those things.
That's why you got to be for them grandchildren.
No, you
It's been more people other than my grandchildren who've been there. I tell you. God. Anyway.
You can take that even farther, right? And he wants to go up without holding on. When you hold on, you don't feel the full presence of your body and its weight. So in some respects, you're not really going up the stairs yet. It's when you're on your own. It's like when you take the training wheels off the bike.
Yeah.
Now you know what it's like to ride a bike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you may fall once or twice, but you're going to more quickly find your center of gravity, whatever you can call it. So the analogy can be there as well. So the little guy who wants to do it, he may teeter and totter around, but he'll more quickly find out where he is, so to speak, and be able to do it faster.
And that's how life experiences are, but that's how spiritual experiences are too.
So when does God teach us, our mother, father teaches, and when we as Elohim teaches each other? Or
Is that a question?
yeah, that's a question.
The question is beginning with where you are, you. And this morning we were talking about thanks and what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Begin there with you. That's God teaching us. He's giving us this tool. He's giving us this wisdom. He's giving us this knowledge, this understanding, as we're opening us up. There's so many things that that here in the Word, but this is just one. But everything points to the same thing. Everything points to understanding who we are and that we are one with the Father. And that we have the power to do all that needs to be done in this earth realm.
Suppose that we're not actually teaching in the sense that we think we are.
Mhm.
It's us remembering what it's like to be Elohim. And with the goal being to accept the Adam experience, and rather than just remembering what it was like to be it, but we can't do it by holding on to the material because we're afraid of losing something. And when you're afraid of losing something, you gain absolutely nothing.
We're afraid of falling and
Yeah.
losing whatever it is in the fall.
So it's not so much of teaching as it is remembrance. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if I'm you and you are me, right? So Barbara is not teaching in the sense that we think teaching is done. She's bringing to remembrance things that we already know. Because if everything is already in us, then we already know. It's just a remembrance that's taking place. When you say something resonated with you, it's because you remember.
You know, so, you know who else helps me be mindful of who I am? My grandbabies. The kids. Because of their way of thinking. You know, I listen to my granddaughter and some of the stuff she's saying, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
You know?
That's innocence.
That's what?
Innocence. It doesn't last long. We take it away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cover it up.
Right.
Start practicing it. Practice builds your faith muscles. You'll start acting on it. That's all I have to say. That's the object lesson for today in this period.
Okay.
I think certainly I have been feeling as I go forward with whatever's in front of me, the years, minutes, whatever. Yeah, it's that, and the connection between thankful and joyful. I'll just put it out that way. And one of the things I can see, and there are hardships too, that people choose, if they're given the freedom, I think, or not distorted thinking, or whatever you want to call it, they'll choose joy over suffering. But if they're in a situation where a lot of that's imposed, then it's very hard to maintain it, to keep some kind of balance or sense of it. But I think we just have less and less joy in our lives. And that is so powerful to have, to overcome things, or accept things, or grow, etc., etc. a song or whatever, and just feel you've lost yourself and I don't care what you're doing in the
Then the
aisles, all
bulb
that,
blows out.
falling out, the whole thing, whatever. And then 2 hours later, you're talking about your neighbor,
The bulb blows.
and you're wondering who's a good piece of chicken. You know, I mean, And did you see what he or she wore to church? I mean, yeah, but right in the middle of it. So,
And
tell me I'm
I want to
wrong.
add something to that. Because of the society we live in, we've been convinced that joy comes from stuff.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the longer you believe that, the less joy you will get from the stuff that you have. So we have forgotten that joy doesn't come from anything except us. So we generate it and produce it and put it into a situation. But we are constantly being convinced in a way that it works the opposite way around, but it doesn't. And the same thing with meaning, same thing with a sense of purpose, which is the other things that people don't have, which creates depression or whatever. It doesn't come from anything outside of us.
Thank you for that comment.
There's 12 years.
Did you look at that next verse?
Did I what?
Did you look at that verse? 21.
The next
You don't
verse?
have any name, you don't have any purpose, but
Not really. Did you look at it?
I looked at it,
people find
Just
some
now.
way to keep
and it appears to be saying that when you submit yourself to each other, you're reverencing Elohim, which infers that submitting to each other brings about the unicity, that oneness.
It deals with the you issue that Richard was talking
That's
about.
right. Yeah, and it's interesting that the thing that we thought was, wives, submit yourself to your husband, is talking about femininity. Any woman of any age, any male of any age, it just translated as wives and husbands. It wasn't intended to be.
Say that again?
It was not intended to be.
No, all the way back.
Oh.
Something about husbands and wives?
I see, when we thought that the 22nd verse talks about wives, submit yourself, that verse, it's talking about females of any age. And the idea of submission is not domination, it's totally different.
So females of any age, stomach is
And the husband is males of any age as well. It's just a male period.
Well, it's leading off verse 21, where it says to submit to each other.
Yeah,
I see.
right. And I think it's more explanation of submission than it is a domination.
Well, it's not even each other, it's
Yeah, there's
Parts
a
of
space between 21 and 22, so everybody just loses 21.
Yeah.
well, 22 it gives you a little more control. Focus on 22 if you want to do that.
Of course.
Of course.
Sure.
That's why I was translated wives instead of females or woman.
And we never get to verse 25. After we just get to submit yourself, but verse husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church, which means that the husband will not do anything to injure or to harm his wife, who's really himself.
Who wrote this one?
Paul.
Paul.
Are we still okay
We
with
had
it?
moments of light.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, interludes were
Well,
like,
and other people might have tweaked up a little bit.
Just like
Come
we
on,
have our
man.
moments of light.
Okay, anything else?
But you're not supposed to love your
I
wife.
just thought that was interesting. So,
That's another lesson too.
What?
Wow. About what he just,
About the submission?
yes.
We went over that.
Oh, we'll go over it
Maybe
again.
we do need that lesson to put it out there.
Yes, please.
what it really means,
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
opposed
in
to
the face of-
You don't want us to?
the inferred meaning or
Does that
the
provoke something here? My
preferred meaning. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you really look at it, the whole idea of submission is shown throughout the scripture, because there are no titles in the scripture in terms of capital letters to confer titles.
Mm-hmm.
There are no capital letters in the Hebrew or the Aramaic. So there are no titles there, which means that there's no domination either. Because titles infer domination,
Yes.
to rule over something. And that's not the spirit of anything that's written there. It's all about the oneness of everything as opposed to individuality.
Wow.
No, I'm just fooling you.
Yes, I'm
Other thoughts? Other thoughts, other thoughts, other thoughts? Other
wow.
comments? Okay, be grateful. Pastor? Anything else?
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. The truth of the light that we are in the light of truth reminds us that in everything we're grateful. Amen.
Amen.
Nick, go ahead. You know it, no real.
Oh, you was out shopping last night? No.
So what do you want
Yes,
your parents to think?
We have steam heat in the house and a pipe's knocking the walls.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It keeps me awake.
Rhythmically?
Your daddy on a roll this
I'll tell you
morning.
what,